Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about a fun little thing. Namely, how do you control what makes you happy? Or better yet, how do you control your own happiness? How do you make yourself be happy? Well, it all stems from the first and most basic of things, and that is understanding how you yourself work, how your mind works, and then how your mind can get your body to follow along and lead you to, well, the promised land of being happy. You've probably heard the saying that you are perfect. A lot of people are saying it. Accept yourself as you are perfect. Well, I have a different spin on this thing. My idea here is that everybody has been made to strive to perfection or strive toward being perfect. But depending on how we condition ourselves and our minds is how much of that perfection we would be able to, well, eventually achieve. Nobody can achieve perfection because perfection is an idea. For what perfect for one person means, it can be a totally different thing for another person. So, if we take this thing into account, it only means that you can try to strive to be the best you or the perfect you based on your image. So how does this all work then? Well, here's the funny thing. If you look at it and just compare how things have been going in your entire life, in your past, you've probably have come to a point to realize that when you go ahead and you want to achieve something, you don't have to think of all of the individual muscles that you would have to use in order to pick up something. You would just think about it and your hand would go ahead and pick something. If you need to go somewhere, you don't need to think how your muscles in your legs would move so you can get to that position. You just get up and go. Well, there is something similar happening with our minds as well. You see, we have something as a driver in our head. This driver is basically controlling us and the way we think and in turn how we act. So if we take into consideration how that driver works, well, that driver is doing nothing except one thing, and that is it processes information that you feed it through your sensory audible senses. So basically what you see, what you read, what you hear is all data. And all of this data is being fed to this driver of this, how do we call it, mental CPU, if you would take it that way. So this mental CPU will take all the data, it will work through it, and it will give you a result based on this data. Now, there is a interesting thing that you can do here. The data can be a positive or a negative data. And you should always try to follow along one simple rule, the GIGO rule. Garbage in, garbage out. So, if you think in a negative way, or you have negative inputs, the brain will not, or that AI in your brain will really not mind. It will take all the negative inputs, it will work through them based on a negative mind frame, and it will give you a negative output. So this is what you should not be aiming towards. So you see, if you feed your mental AI or your mental CPU positive thoughts, your final results will be positive. It is as simple as that. Now, there is another thing. But everything that we just said is more or less how animals also think. But with a small twist, an animal has instincts. And these instincts will lead it to live a successful life, but based on those animals' needs, which generally means the need for safety, the need for shelter, a mate, and survival. And if an animal does that, the animal is happy. But you see, we as humans, we have a couple of more requests we want to go ahead and fulfill. We have let's put it like this, a spiritual need, and we have a creative need. So our intellect is driving us to always try to strive to perfect things that already exist, improve upon them, and slowly come up to new things, new ways of feeling fulfilled. And this strive towards achievements is one of the things that has been a driving force in all of humanity. And that is exactly why whenever we try to achieve something and we finally do it, we feel amazing. Like I said, if we compare ourselves with animals, the main thing is this, that we have the need for a creative outlet and a spiritual outlet. And this makes us very special, because all we have to do is condition our mind and just give it a task, whatever it is. It doesn't stop there. So, for example, let's say you are at work and you have this problem that you need to fix. Now, I've had this thing happen multiple times in my sphere of work. Like, I do a lot of projects where I have to talk to designers, architects, some projects lead me to go with mechanical engineers, and I've heard from a lot of them the same thing over and over and over again. And that is, in their fields of work, when they encounter a problem or an obstacle which they don't know how to fix, it will come to a point where they would spend days upon days just hammering away, trying to force this thing to happen, and it doesn't happen. They cannot solve a particular problem. But then they would just leave everything and take a step back. And then somehow, when they go to bed, and in the morning when they wake up, they magically have the solution. You've probably heard this thing from different people. The more you force something, the less it comes to you. But when you relax, you literally get the answer. So what gives? Well, this is the most obvious form of how your mental CPU works. You see, when you were trying to force this thing, you weren't using your creative way of thinking. You were using your mechanical ways of thinking. You wanted to take all of the data that you've seen and just cram it down and get that result. But for things that actually require some thinking, some creative spark or creative approach, you need to let your creative senses work. And that is why the best thing you can do is believe in yourself and in your creative spark. So the way that this works is very simple. You need to do 3 things. First of all, you need to relax. Stop trying to force something. Your creative outputs will not work that way. Second thing is, before you go to bed, just spend some time thinking about a problem. Don't try to force an answer. Just think about the issues. Think about all of the things that are stopping you, or all of the things that are an obstacle in your task. And then the third and most important thing, when relaxed and when you have thought about this, just go to bed. Just go to bed. It is as simple as that. Now, there's a pretty good chance that this will not work on the first time, but it might. It might just happen that in the morning when you wake up, you're just going to be greeted by an idea. This idea will be the answer to that question that you have asked yourself how to solve, this problem that you've had. So as you can see, that creative spark works best when unobstructed by your conscious mind or your conscious ideas. Now, what am I saying here? What I'm saying is that you are not really a machine, but more like you are a person sitting behind a control panel. And this control panel controls your conscious ways of thinking, which is your mental and your physical thing. But you also have another component on top of it. That is the subconscious. And this is where most of the creative juices flow. And this is where everything gets done. So all you can do while you're at this console is you instruct your conscience to make the problem and then leave it up to your subconscious to solve. You'd be amazed how many times this has worked and how many people have actually found a solution to their problems by just doing this one very simple thing. So you see, like I said, if you want to achieve anything in life and you want to improve your outcomes, you have to understand how you work, how your conscious and subconscious works. And grasping this very simple thing, that inside your head, inside your being, there is something that is beyond the ability to explain it in a rational way. You have your irrational superpower, and all you have to do is just unleash it and see how it works. We will talk more about this in future videos, on how we can condition it with positive feedback and how we can try to avoid negative feedback. But for now, I want to leave it here. At the end of this video, I will just say the same thing that I will continue saying in every single video. Never try to compare yourself to other people. Don't try to force yourself to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to be better.